We're going to continue on our overview of International Residential Code with a look at chapters 14 and 15. Again, this section of code does apply to mechanical equipment. And by mechanical equipment, we're talking about air conditioning, heating, ventilation, dryers, anything that interacts with the building environment. Heating and cooling equipment and appliances shall be located with respect to building construction and other equipment and appliances to permit maintenance, servicing, and replacement. Clearances shall be maintained to permit cleaning of heating and cooling surfaces, replacement of filters, blower motors, controls, vent connections, and lubrication of moving parts and adjustments. Access shall not be required for ducts, piping, or other components approved for concealment. Basically, what this section 1401.2 says is you have to be able to service the equipment. Sizing of equipment is important. Heating and cooling equipment and appliances shall be sized in accordance with ACA, Air Conditioning Contractors Association, Manual S, based on building loads in accordance calculated with ACCSA Manual J or other approved heating and cooling calculation methodologies. You cannot any longer just replace a piece of equipment and say, okay, we think it fits. Okay, it has to be sized appropriately, and most jurisdictions are requiring a Manual J calculation. 1401.4 talks about exterior installations. Equipment and appliances installed outdoors shall be listed and labeled for outdoor installation. Supports and foundations shall prevent excessive vibration, settlement, or movement of the equipment. Supports and foundations shall be in accordance with section 1305.1.4.1. Again, we're referencing other sections in the code. Now, what this is saying is if you have a furnace that's rated for inside or interior installation, you cannot install it outside. Just like you can't install a exterior piece of equipment inside. Has to be installed in accordance to where the manufacturer says it should be installed. Combustion air needs to be provided in accordance with Chapter 17. Combustion air openings shall be unobstructed for a distance of not less than 6 inches in front of the openings. In other words, two things are saying here. First, look at Chapter 17 and talk about what it says about combustion air, and then look at the combustion air area. You cannot have anything obstructing it. In other words, getting in the way of it for anything less than 6 inches. Heat pumps have a special section in here because there's some additional requirements for heat pump installations. The minimum unobstructed total area of the outside and return ducts opening to a heat pump shall be not less than 6 square inches per 1,000 BTU per hour output rating, or as indicated by the conditions of the listing of the heat pump. Electric heat pumps shall conform to UL 1995. Okay, first of all, there should be a UL stamp on all heat pump labels. Okay, if it doesn't have a UL stamp, don't buy it. Second of all, you have to have an unobstructed outside or return air duct openings to a heat pump. 6 square inches per 1,000 BTU. Remember, there's 12,000 BTUs in a ton. Foundation and supports for outdoor installations of a heat pump shall be raised at least 3 inches above the ground to permit free drainage of defrost water and shall conform to the manufacturer's recommended installation instructions. Depending on where you are at in the country, this code will vary. Okay, however, heat pumps have to be installed on an outdoor support, usually a concrete pad, that needs to be 3 inches above the surrounding ground area. because there has to be drainage around heat pumps. In the northeastern or the northern parts of the country where snow gets on the ground, it is actually raised further per manufacturer's directions. Electric baseboard has some additional guidelines in 1405.1. Electric baseboard shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's installation instructions and chapters 34 through 43 of this code. Electric baseboard heaters shall be listed and labeled in accordance with UL 1042. (1406.3) talks about installation of radiant panels. Radiant panels installed on wood framing shall conform to the following requirements. Heating panels shall be installed parallel to framing members and secured to the surface of framing members or mounted between framing members. Mechanical fasteners shall penetrate only the unheated portions provided for this purpose. Panels are not to be fastened to any point closer than a 1/4 inch to an element. Other methods of attachment to the panel shall be in accordance with the panel manufacturer's instructions. In other words, we have to be concerned about fire safety when we're attaching to wood framing. Unless listed and labeled for field cutting, heating panels shall be installed as complete units. In other words, you can't shorten them unless it specifically says by the manufacturer you can. If you're installing them on concrete or masonry, you have to first, radiant heating systems shall be identified as being suitable for the installation and shall be secured in place as specified in the manufacturer's installation instructions. Again, we're going back to the manufacturer's instructions. Radiant heating panels or radiant heating panel sets shall not be installed where they bridge expansion joints unless protected from expansion and contraction. Concrete walls sometimes have expansion joints. These are areas where the two concrete sections meet with some sort of flexible material in the middle. You cannot install a heating panel over that joint. Finished surfaces installed over radiant heating panels or systems shall be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's installation instructions. Surfaces shall be secured so that nails or fasteners do not pierce the radiant heating elements. Again, by radiant heating elements, we're talking about radiant heating panels that are electric. Okay, we're not at this point talking about water-based radiant heating. We're talking about electric. So we need to make sure that nothing touches those electric elements that could cause a fire or shock hazard. Electric duct heaters shall be installed that they will not create a fire hazard. Class 1 ducts, duct coverings, and linings shall be interrupted at each heater to provide clearance as specified in the manufacturer's installation instructions. Such installations are not required for duct heaters listed and labeled for zero clearance to combustible materials. Insulation installed in the immediate area of the duct heaters must be classified for the maximum temperatures produced on the duct surface. Electric duct heaters, including heaters that are the top of air handlers, need to be protected from insulation in the ductwork catching on fire. Installation with heat pumps and air conditioners. A duct heater located within 4 feet of a heat pump or air conditioner shall be listed and labeled for such installations. The heat pump or air conditioner shall additionally be listed and labeled for duct heater installations. Location of floor furnaces shall conform to the following requirements. Floor registers of floor furnaces shall be installed not less than 6 inches from a wall. Wall registers of floor furnaces shall be installed of not less than 6 inches from a joining wall at inside corners. The furnace register shall be located not less than 12 inches from doors in any position, draperies, or similar combustible objects. Floor furnaces are actual furnaces that install right under the floor. They're smaller than regular ducted furnaces. The furnace register shall be located at least 5 feet below any projecting combustible materials. The floor furnace burner assembly shall not project into an occupied underfloor area. The floor furnace shall not be installed in a concrete floor construction built on the grade. In other words, you can't dig a hole and install the floor furnace under a concrete floor. The floor furnace shall not be installed where a door can swing within 12 inches of the grill opening. In other words, we want to keep all combustibles away from this. Any opening in the foundation not less than 18 inches by 24 inches or trapdoor not less than 22 inches by 30 inches shall be provided to access to a floor furnace. The opening and passageway should be large enough to allow replacement of any part of the equipment. What this section 1408.4 access is saying, you have to be able to get to the furnace and resolve any issues. Floor furnace installations have to conform to the following requirements. Thermostats controlling floor furnace shall be located in the room in which the register of the floor furnace is located. Floor furnaces shall be supported independently of the furnace floor register. Floor furnaces cannot be installed closer than 6 inches to the ground. Clearances can be reduced to 2 inches provided that the lower 6 inches of the furnace is sealed to prevent water entry. In other words, if you're installing a floor furnace under a floor, okay, in a crawl space, you have to make sure that no water can get on this. Where excavation is required for floor furnace installation, the excavations shall install 30 inches beyond the control side of the floor furnace and 12 inches beyond the remaining side. Excavations shall slope outward from the perimeter of the base of the excavation to the surrounding grade at an angle not exceeding 45 degrees from horizontal. Floor furnaces should not be supported from the ground. Okay, in other words, if we have to dig a hole under a house to install a floor furnace, you have to do a 45-degree angle from grade at 30 inches beyond. Okay, we don't want the hole collapsing, and we need to leave room for water and service. Oh, and you have to hang it from the building. You can't support it from the ground. Chapter 1501 starts with, it's basically talking about ventilation and exhaust. Okay, so it's saying outdoor discharge. Air removed from every mechanical exhaust system shall be discharged to the outdoors in accordance with 1506.2. Air shall not be exhausted into an attic, soffit, ridge vent, or crawl space. So what it's basically saying is that every exhaust fan in the house, bathroom exhaust fans, kitchen exhaust fans, basement exhaust fans, okay, needs to be exhausted outside. You're not allowed to exhaust just to the attic. You're not allowed to exhaust to the soffit, which is the area around the eaves. You're not allowed to exhaust to a ridge vent or a crawl space. There's one exception. Whole house ventilation type attic fans that discharge into the attic space of a dwelling having private attics shall be permitted. In other words, if you have one of those whole house ventilation fans that are in the ceiling of like a second or first floor that you could turn on to cause ventilation, you're allowed to discharge it into the attic space only if it is an attic that is private to your building. This is dealing with areas where you might have condos or townhouses. If it's a shared attic, you can't put an attic ventilation fan in. Dryer exhaust systems shall be independent of all other systems and shall convey the moisture to the outside. Okay, dryer exhaust systems have a problem with humidity, moisture, and lint. Okay, they're considered a real fire hazard in reality. Dryer exhaust systems shall be independent of all other systems. In other words, you cannot mix bathroom and kitchen exhaust with dryer exhaust. There's one exception, and it shall not apply to listed and labeled condensing, which is ductless clothes dryers. Okay, and you don't see them that often. But if there's a dryer exhaust, it has to be independent of all other exhausts. Exhaust ducts shall terminate on the outside of the building. Exhaust duct termination shall be in accordance with the dryer manufacturer installation instructions. If the manufacturer instructions do not specify a termination location, the exhaust duct shall terminate not less than 3 feet in any direction from opening into buildings. Exhaust duct termination shall be equipped with a backdraft damper. Screens shall not be installed on the duct termination. Okay, backdraft damper basically means when the dryer is not running, it's not going to allow cold or warm air into the house. We cannot put screens on the termination of on the outlet of the dryer vents. Okay, screens catch lint. The maximum allowable duct length shall be determined by one of the methods specified in 1502.441 or 1502.442. Okay, right under it, 1504.441 specified length. The maximum length of the exhaust duct shall be 35 feet from the connection to the transition duct from the dryer to the outlet terminal. When fittings are used, the maximum length of the exhaust duct shall be reduced in accordance with 1502.441. The maximum length does not include the transition duct. By transition duct, we mean the little piece of duct that's coming out of the dryer that you're going to connect to. So now here's the deal. If you have a straight line, you're allowed 35 feet. However, every fitting you install, every 45-degree elbow, 90-degree elbow, and so on and so forth, reduces that length by the equivalent length. So if I have a dryer that's 35 feet away from the exhaust, okay, and if I have to use a 90-degree elbow, 4-inch, that's going to add 5 feet. So I can't put the dryer there because I have to subtract 5 feet from that 35 feet. Okay? The larger the elbow, the larger the piping you run, the less the equivalent length of fittings are. Bottom line is, for closed dryers, the closer to the outside wall and the termination, the better off you are. Where an exhaust duct is concealed within the building instruction, the equivalent length of the exhaust duct shall be identified in a permanent label or tag. The label or tag has to be located within 6 feet of the exhaust duct connection. So if you're building a new building and you put the exhaust duct for the clothes dryer into the exterior wall so it runs up the wall and then goes outside, you have to label it in a permanent manner so that anyone connecting to it knows how long that duct is. Range hoods also have some specific requirements. Okay, this is kitchen range hoods. Now these requirements are important again because of grease and fire hazards that can contain grease. Range hoods should discharge to the outside through a single wall duct. The duct serving the hood shall have a smooth interior surface, be airtight, and should have a backdraft damper and shall be independent of all other exhaust systems. Ducts serving range hoods shall not terminate into an attic or crawl space or areas inside the building. Again, grease is a real fire hazard. Now the backdraft damper, again, if the equipment's not being used, we shouldn't be sucking air into the building through the greasy pipes. Okay? Backdraft damper opens when it's in use, closes when it's not. Now there is an exception. Were installed in accordance with the manufacturer installation directions, and when mechanical or natural ventilation is otherwise provided, listed and labeled ductless range hoods should not be required to discharge to the outdoors. Makeup air is required for any exhaust hood that is capable of exhausting excess 400 cubic feet per minute. Okay, makeup air is basically you're bringing in fresh air to replace the air you are removing. The makeup air has to be at a rate approximately equal to the exhaust air. In other words, if you are exhausting 400 cubic feet per minute, you have to bring in 400 cubic feet per minute. Such makeup air systems shall be equipped with a means of closure and shall be automatically controlled to start and operate simultaneously with the exhaust system. Now, in most kitchens, most residential kitchens, you will not hit the 400 cubic feet per minute unless someone has installed a commercial or a high-end exhaust hood. You see those big exhaust hoods over the larger gas ranges. It's very possible that that could hit 400 cubic feet per minute. You have to bring in makeup air. Exhaust openings for kitchen hoods. The air exhaust opening shall terminate not less than 3 feet from property lines, 3 feet from operable and non-operable openings into the window, and 10 feet from mechanical air intakes except where the opening is located 3 feet above the air intake. Openings shall comply with sections R 303.5.2 and 303.6. Okay, so exhaust openings, we do not want to be closer to 3 feet from the property line. Again, we need to keep the grease and everything and smells and odors and smoke coming out of exhaust openings from ranges into an appropriate manner. Okay, we also need to make sure that we don't suck the exhaust air back into the fresh air intake. Again, we don't want to bring in the grease, smoke, and odors that's being exhausted. Makes no sense. So that's what the 10 foot for mechanical air intake. So if you have makeup air being pulled in, you need to make sure that it's 10 feet away or 3 feet above that air intake. Minimum required local exhaust rates for 1 and 2 family dwellings, okay, is actually relatively easy. For kitchens, you have to have 100 CFM of exhaust or 25, that's intermittent. In other words, I'm turning it on and off when I need it, or 25 CFM continuous. For bathrooms, toilet rooms, okay, mechanical exhaust capacity of 50 CFM intermittent or 20 CFM continuous. These are the requirements according to building code. Has to be exhausted outside.